Chapter 10. Vibhuti Yoga. The Lord is the source of all manifestations. In the 7th discourse and in the 9th, the essential nature of the Lord and His manifestations have been pointed out. Now it is necessary to point out in what forms of being the Lord should be thought of, and it is also necessary to describe the essential nature of the Lord, though it has been described already, as it is a hard thing to understand. With this view, the Lord says,
Vibhuti Yoga Shri Bhagavanuvacha Bhuya eva mahabaho shrudu me paramam vachaha Yatteham priyamanaya vakshyami hitakamyaya.
Translation. The blessed Lord said, Again, O mighty armed, listen to my supreme word, which I, from a desire for your self-well-being, shall speak to you who are delighted. Supreme, as revealing the unsurpassed thing. Delighted, you are intensely delighted with my speech, as though you are drinking the immortal nectar. Why should he speak of it? The Lord says,
Name viduh suragana prabhavam namaharshayah Ahamadirhi devanam maharshinam cha sarvashah.
Translation. Neither the hosts of the gods nor the great rishis know my origin, for I am the source of all the gods and the great rishis. Prabhava, interpreted as origin, may also mean great lordly power. Rishis, such as Bhrigu. Moreover,
Yo mamajamanadim cha veti lokamaheshwaram Asammoodah samatyeshu sarva papaih pramuchyate.
Translation. He who knows me as unborn and beginningless, as the great Lord of the worlds, he among mortals is undeluded, is liberated from all sins. Because I am the source of the gods and the great rishis, naught else exists as the source of my existence, wherefore, I am unborn and beginningless. Because I am beginningless, therefore I am unborn. Undiluted, devoid of delusion. All sins, consciously or unconsciously incurred. For the following reason also I am the great Lord of the worlds.
Buddhir jnanam asammohah kshama satyam damah shamah Sukham dukkham bhavo bhavo bhayam cha bhayameva cha Ahimsa samata tushtis tapodanam yasho yashah Bhavanti bhava bhutanam matta eva pruthak.
Translation. Intelligence, wisdom, non-illusion, patience, truth, self-restraint, calmness, pleasure, pain, birth, death, fear, and security, innocence, equanimity, contentment, austerity, beneficence, fame, shame, these different kinds of dispositions of beings arise from me alone. Intelligence, buddhi, is the power which the inner sense, antahkarana, has of understanding subtle objects of thought. He, indeed, is said to be intelligent who is possessed of this power. Wisdom is the knowledge of the self and other such things. Non-illusion consists in acting with discrimination when anything has to be done or known at the moment. Patience, not being agitated in mind when assaulted or abused. Truth, giving utterance to one's own actual experience of things, as heard or seen, with a view to impress it on the mind of another. Self-restraint, quieting the external senses. Calmness, the tranquility of the inner sense or antahkarana. Innocence, not injuring living beings. Contentment, being satisfied with one's present acquisitions. Austerity, bodily torture accompanied with the restraint of the senses. Beneficence, sharing one's own things with others as far as one's own means may permit. Fame, due to dharma. Shame, due to adharma. All these different dispositions of living beings mentioned above, such as intelligence, arise from me alone, the Lord, Ishvara, according to their respective karma. Moreover,
महर्षयः सप्त पूर्वे चत्वारो मनवस्तथा मद्भावा मानसा जाता येषां लोक इमाः प्रजाः.
Translation. The 7 great rishis as well as the 4 ancient Manus, with their being in me, were born of mind, and theirs are these creatures in the world. The 7 great rishis such as Bhrigu, as well as the 4 Manus of the past ages known as Savanis, had directed their thoughts to me exclusively and were therefore endowed with the power of Vishnu. They were produced by me by mind alone. Born in the creation of these Manus and of the great rishis are these creatures comprising the moving and the unmoving beings. Knowledge of the Lord's glory conduces to yoga.
एतां विभूतिं योगं च मम यो वेत्ति तत्त्वतः सोऽविकल्पेन योगेन युज्यते नात्र संशयः.
Translation. He who knows in truth this glory and power of mine is endowed with unshaken yoga, there is no doubt of it. He who knows in truth this vast extent of my being and my achievement, yoga, or yoga may here stand for what is born of yoga, the power of achieving and controlling mighty things as well as omniscience. He is endowed with unshaken yoga, i.e. with steadiness in right knowledge. The Lord is not only the material cause, Prakriti, of all, but, as the omniscient Lord of all, He is also the ruler of all, for He produced the great rishis and the Manus. The great rishis, from Bhrigu to Vasishtha, were omniscient and were the original teachers of the traditional wisdom. The Manus were the rulers of creatures and were themselves lords. Both these belonged to the primeval age and were born of the mind of the Lord. The great rishis and Manus had their thought directed to the omniscient Lord and were therefore endowed with the power of Vishnu and obtained wisdom and power. The present denizens of this world are their creatures, by birth and by knowledge point. He who knows me as infinite, i.e., he who knows the fact that the great rishis and the Manus possessed their power and wisdom, as partaking of a very small portion of the Lord's power and wisdom. The knowledge of the conditioned is the doorway leading to the knowledge of the unconditioned. What is that unshaken yoga with which they are endowed? The answer follows.
Aham sarvasya prabhavo mattah sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitaah.
Translation. I am the source of all, from me everything evolves, thus thinking the wise worship me, endowed with contemplation. I, the Supreme Brahman, termed Vasudeva, am the source of the whole world. From me alone evolves the whole universe in all its changes, including existence and disappearance, action, effect and enjoyment. Thus thinking, the wise who know the Supreme Reality worship me, ardently engaged in the contemplation of the Supreme Reality. Moreover,
मच्चित्ता मद्गतप्राणा बोधयन्तः परस्परम् कथयन्तश्च माम् नित्यम् तुष्यन्ति च रमन्ति च.
Translation. With their thought on me, with their life absorbed in me, instructing each other, and ever speaking of me, they are content and delighted. All their senses, pranas, such as the eye, are absorbed in me. Or according to another interpretation, their very life, prana, is devoted to me. They ever speak of me as possessed of supreme wisdom, power, might and other qualities. They thus obtain satisfaction and are delighted as if in the company of the beloved. Controlled and impelled by me as the inner regulator, everything moves on in accordance with the law. It is only those who see the emptiness of the worldly life that are fit for a life of devotion to the Lord. When men know the Lord as the self of all, the cause of all, the omniscient Lord of all, they become devoted to me. The knowledge of the Supreme Reality leads to love, regard and earnestness, and these led to devotion to the Lord. The Lord endows His devotees with wisdom. As to those who worship me devotedly in the ways mentioned above,
तेषां सततयुक्तानां भजतां प्रीतिपूर्वकम् ददामि बुद्धियोगं तं येन मामुपयान्ति ते.
Translation. To these, ever devout, worshipping me with love, I give that devotion of knowledge by which they come to me. To them who are ever devout, worshipping me, not for any purpose of their own, but out of love for me. To them I give that devotion of right knowledge, buddhi-yoga, of my essential nature by which they those who worship me, with their thought on me, and so honor me, the Supreme Lord, the Self, as their own self. Why dost you give the devotion of knowledge, buddhi-yoga, to your self-devotees, and what is that obstacle in the path leading to you which the devotion of knowledge that you givest to your self-devotees serves to remove? In answer to this question, the Lord says,
तेषामेवानुकम्पार्थमहमज्ञानजं तमः नाशयाम्यात्मभावस्थो ज्ञानदीपेन भास्वता.
Translation. Out of mere compassion for them, I, abiding in their self, destroy the darkness born of ignorance, by the luminous lamp of wisdom. Those alone who are thus devoted to the Lord can attain to buddhi-yoga, that extremely superior condition of the antakarna produced by dhyana, by which they reach that form of the Lord which is devoid of all limitations. Out of mere compassion, out of mercy, anxious as to how they may attain bliss, I dwell in their antahkarana which is engaged in thinking exclusively of the self, and destroy the darkness of ignorance, that illusory knowledge which is caused by the absence of discrimination, by the lamp of wisdom, by the lamp of discriminatory knowledge, fed by the all of pure devotion, bhakti prasada. Fanned by the wind of earnest meditation on me, furnished with the wick of right intuition, purified by the cultivation of piety, chastity and other virtues, held in the antahkarana which is completely detached from all worldly concerns, placed in the vine-sheltered enclosure of the mind which is withdrawn from the sense objects and untainted by attachment and aversion, and shining with the light of right knowledge generated by incessant practice of concentration and meditation. Arjuna's question about the Lord's manifestations. Having heard of the Lord's glory and His mysterious power, Arjuna says,
Arjuna uvacha param brahma param dhama pavitram paramam bhavan purusham shashvatam divyam adidevam ajam vibhum. आहुस्त्वां ऋषयः सर्वे देवर्षिर्नारदस्तथा असितो देवलो व्यासः स्वयं चैव ब्रवीषि मे.
Translation. Arjuna said, The Supreme Brahman, the Supreme Light, the Supreme Purifier art you, all the rishis declare you as eternal. Divine Purusha, the primal God, unborn, omnipresent, so said the divine sage Narada, as also Asita, Devala and Vyasa, and you yourself also sayest, so, to me. The Supreme Brahman, the highest self, the primal God, the God who existed before all other gods. Rishis, such as Vasishtha. In the Antahkarana functioning on the plane of spirit exclusively. Darkness here includes both the beginningless nescience and the illusory perception resulting from that nescience. It cannot be removed by matter or any material phenomenon, belonging as it does to the same class as darkness. Therefore the Lord has said that He Himself destroys darkness. But the Spirit, Chaitanya, cannot directly remove darkness. It is only an intellectual state that is found to illumine an object unknown before. Hence it is that the Spirit removes ignorance by itself shining through a state of the intellect such as the one induced by the teaching of the Sastra. It is either the Spirit manifesting itself through an intellectual state, or an intellectual state pervaded by the Spirit, that can destroy nescience and illusory knowledge.
सर्वमेतद्धृतं मन्ये यन्मां वदसि केशव न हि ते भगवन् व्यक्तिं विदुर्देवानदानवाः.
Translation. I believe to be true all this which you sayest to me, for neither the gods nor the Danvas, O Lord, know your self-manifestation. Because you art the source of the Devas and others therefore.
स्वयमेवात्मनात्मानं वेत्थत्वं पुरुषोत्तम भूतभावन भूतेश देवदेव जगत्पते.
Translation. You yourself knowest yourself self as the Self, O Purusha Supreme, O Source of Beings. O Lord of Beings, O God of Gods, O Ruler of the world. You, yourself, i.e., without being taught, knowest yourself, the unconditioned nature of yourself. As the Self, not as something external. Knowest yourself, as the Lord, as the Ishvara. Possessed of unsurpassed wisdom, sovereignty and other powers.
वक्तुमर्हस्य शेषेण दिव्या ह्यात्मविभूतयः याभिर्विभूतिभिर्लोकानिमांस्त्वं व्याप्य तिष्ठसि.
Translation. You shouldst indeed tell, without reserve, of your self-divine glories, by which glories you remainest pervading all these worlds.
कथं विद्यामहं योगिंस्त्वां सदा परिचिन्तयन् केषु केषु च भावेषु चिन्त्योऽसि भगवन्मया.
Translation. How shall I, ever meditating, know you, O Yogin, in what several things, O Lord, art you to be thought of by me?
विस्तरेणात्मनो योगं विभूतिं च जनार्दन भूयः कथय तृप्तिर्हि शृण्वतो नास्ति मे मृतम्.
Translation. Tell me again in detail, O Janardana, of your self-power and glory, for there is no satiety for me in hearing the immortal. Tell me in detail of your self-mysterious power, yoga, and sovereignty, Aishwarya, and the various things to be meditated upon. Janardana is so called because he sends or causes to go, Ardeti, the Asuras, those people, Janas, who are the enemies of the gods, to hell and the like, or because he is prayed to by all people for worldly success and salvation. Tell me again of them, though described before, for there is no satiety in hearing the immortal ambrosia of the speech issuing from your self-mouth. Not even your conditioned nature as the Lord of the universe, etc., can be seen by others. Since your nature, which it is necessary to know, is invisible to others. In what manner should I, who am of dull understanding, meditate constantly on you, in order that my reason may thereby be purified so as to be able to know your unconditioned being? The Lord's enumeration of His manifestations.
Shri Bhagavanuvacha Hantate kathayishyami divyahyatma vibhutayah Pradhanyatah kuru shrestha nastyanto vistarasya me.
Translation. The blessed Lord said, Now will I tell you of my heavenly glories, in their prominence, O best of the Kurus, there is no limit to my extent. Now I will tell you of my heavenly glories, in their prominence, i.e., where they are severally the most prominent. It is not, indeed, possible even in a whole century to describe all of them, as there is no limit to the extent of my glories. Now, listen to this, in the first place.
Ahamatma gudakesha sarvabhutashayasthitah Ahamadishcha madhyam cha bhutanamanta eva cha.
Translation. I am the Self, O Gudakesha, seated in the heart of all beings. I am the beginning and the middle, as also the end, of all beings. You should think of me as the innermost Self, seated in the heart within of all beings. Gudakesha means either conqueror of sleep or thick-haired. He who is unable to think of me as the Self should think of me in those things which are mentioned below. For I am the source, the stay, and the end of all beings.
Adityanamaham Vishnur Jyotisham Raviram Shuman Marichirmarutamasmi Nakshatranamaham Shashi.
Translation. Of the Adityas I am Vishnu, of the radiances, the resplendent sun, I am Marichi of the Maruts, of the asterisms, the moon. Of the 12 Adityas, I am the Aditya known as Vishnu. Maruts are a kind of Devtas.
Vedanam samavedosmi devanamasmi vasavaha Indriyanam manaschasmi bhutanamasmi chetana.
Translation. Of the Vedas I am the Samaveda, I am Vasav of the gods, and of the senses I am the mind, I am the intelligence in living beings. Gods, such as the Rudras and the Adityas. Vasava, Indra. Of the 11 senses I am the mind. Chetna, sentiency or intelligence, is that state of the intellect, buddhi, which manifests itself in the aggregate of the body and the senses.
Rudranam Shankaraschasmi Vittesho Yaksharakshasam Vasunam Pavakaschasmi Meruh Shikharinamaham.
Translation. And of the Rudras I am Shankara, of the Yakshas and Rakshasas the Lord of Wealth, and of the Vasus I am Agni, of the mountains I am the Meru. The Rudras are 11 in number, and the Vasus 8. The Lord of Wealth, Kuber. It exhibits itself in the aggregate body, pervading it throughout till death, and forming the medium for the manifestation of the spirit or consciousness, Chaitanya.
पुरोधसां च मुख्यं मां विद्धि पार्थ बृहस्पतिम् सेनानीनामहं स्कन्दः सरसावस्मि सागरः.
Translation. And of the household priests of kings, O son of Pritha, know me the chief one, Brihaspati. Of generals I am Skanda, of lakes I am the ocean. Brihaspati is the chief of priests, because he is the household priest of Indra. Skanda is the general of the gods. Of the natural, made by the gods' reservoirs, I am the ocean.
महर्षीणां भृगुरहं गिरामस्म्येकमक्षरम् यज्ञानां जपयज्ञोऽस्मि स्थावराणां हिमालयः.
Translation. Of the great rishis I am Bhrigu, of words I am the one syllable, Om, of offerings I am the offering of japa, silent repetition, of unmoving things the Himalaya.
अश्वत्थः सर्ववृक्षाणां देवर्षीणां च नारदः गन्धर्वाणां चित्ररथः सिद्धानां कपिलो मुनिः.
Translation. Of all trees, I am the Aswatha, and Narad of divine rishis, Chitrartha of Gandharvas, the sage Kapila of the saints, Siddhas. Divine rishis, who are devas and are at the same time rishis or seers of mantras. The saints, Siddhas, those who at their very birth attain to a very high degree of dharma, of knowledge, of detachment, vairagya, from worldly concerns, and of supremacy.
उच्चैः श्रवसमश्वानां विद्धि माममृतोद्भवम् ऐरावतं गजेन्द्राणां नराणां च नराधिपम्.
Translation. Know me among horses as Uchchesravas, born of Amrita, of lordly elephants the Airavata, and of men the king. Uchchaisravas is the name of the kingly horse who was born in the ocean when it was churned for the Amrita. Ambrosia. Know me among kingly elephants as the Airavata, the offspring of Iravat.
आयुधानामहं वज्रं धेनूनामस्मि कामधुक् प्रजनश्चास्मि कन्दर्पः सर्पाणामस्मि वासुकिः.
Translation. Of weapons I am the thunderbolt, of cows I am the Kamadhuk, I am the progenitor Kandarp, of serpents I am Vasuki. The thunderbolt, the Vajra made of Dadhich's bone. Kamadhuk, that cow of Vasishtha which yielded all objects desired, or any cow in general which may yield plenty of milk. Kamadhuk, Kama or love. Vasuki, the lord of serpents.
अनन्तश्चास्मि नागानां वरुणो यादसामहम् पितॄणामर्यमा चास्मि यमः संयमतामहम्.
Translation. An Ananta of snakes I am Varuna of water being, and Aryaman of Pitras I am Yam of controllers. Ananta, the king of snakes. Varuna, the king of water gods. Water beings, the Devtas or gods connected with waters. Aryaman is the king of Pitris.
प्रह्लादश्चास्मि दैत्यानां कालः कलयतामहम् मृगाणां च मृगेन्द्रोऽहं वैनतेयश्च पक्षिणाम्.
Translation. And Prahlad am I of Diti's progeny, of reckoners I am time, and of beasts I am the lord of beasts, and Vante of birds. The lord of beasts, the lion or the tiger. Vante, Vinta's son, Garutmat.
पवनः पवतामस्मि रामः शस्त्रभृतामहम् झषाणां मकरश्चास्मि स्रोतसामस्मि जाह्नवी.
Translation. Of purifiers I am the wind, Rama of warriors am I, of fishes I am the shark, of streams I am the Ganges. Of those who bear weapons I am Rama, Dashratha's son.
सर्गाणामादिरन्तश्च मध्यं चैवाहमर्जुन अध्यात्मविद्या विद्यानां वादः प्रवदतामहम्.
Translation. Of creations I am the beginning and the middle and also the end. Of all knowledges I am the knowledge of the self, and vada of disputants. I am the source, the stay and the end of all evolution. At the commencement it was said that, He is the beginning, the middle, and the end of all sentient existence, but here the whole creation in general is referred to the knowledge of the self is the chief among all knowledges, because it leads to moksha. By disputants, we should here understand the several kinds of disputation, vada, jalpa vitanda. Vada is the chief of them, as it is a means of determining truth. Vada is that way of arguing, of which the object is to arrive at truth regarding a certain question. Jalpa is an argument in which a disputant tries to assert his own opinion and to refute that of his adversary by an overbearing reply or a wrangling rejoinder. Vitanda consists in idly carping at the arguments or assertions of another without attempting to establish the opposite side of the question.
अक्षराणामकारोऽस्मि द्वन्द्वः सामासिकस्य च अहमेवाक्षयः कालो धाताहं विश्वतो मुखः.
Translation. Of letters the letter A am I, and dvandva of all compounds, I am, verily, the inexhaustible time, I am the all-faced dispenser. Time here refers either to what is generally so called, kshana, a moment, the ultimate element of time, or to the Supreme Lord who is the time kala, the measurer, even of time. I am the dispenser of results of actions to the whole world.
मृत्युः सर्वहरश्चाहमुद्भवश्च भविष्यताम् कीर्तिः श्रीर्वाक्च नारीणां स्मृतिर्मेधा धृतिः क्षमा.
Translation. And I am all-seizing death, and the prosperity of those who are to be prosperous, of the feminine, I am, fame, fortune and speech, memory, intelligence, constancy, endurance. Death is of two sorts, he who seizes wealth, etc., and he who seizes life. Of them the seizer of life is the all-seizer, I am he. Or, I am the Supreme Lord who is the all-seizer because of his carrying all away at the time of pralaya or dissolution. I am the prosperity and the means of attaining it of those who are to be prosperous in future, who are fit to attain prosperity. I am fame, etc., the best of the feminine, and possessed of the mere semblance thereof, people regard themselves successful in life.
बृहत्साम तथा साम्नां गायत्री छन्दसामहम् मासानां मार्गशीर्षोऽहं ऋतूनां कुसुमाकरः.
Translation. Of summons also I am the Brihat Saman of meters Gayatri am I, of months I am Margasirsha, of seasons the flowery season. Brihat Saman is the chief of the summons. Of the riks composed in Gayatri and other meters, I am the Gayatri rik. The flowery season is what is called Vasanta, the spring.
द्यूतं छलयतामस्मि तेजस्तेजस्विनामहम् जयोऽस्मि व्यवसायोऽस्मि सत्त्वं सत्त्ववतामहम्.
Translation. I am the gambling of the fraudulent, I am the splendor of the splendid, I am victory, I am effort, I am the goodness of the good. Gambling, such as dice play. I am the victory of the victorious, I am the effort of those who make an effort.
वृष्णीनां वासुदेवोऽस्मि पाण्डवानां धनञ्जयः मुनीनामप्यहं व्यासः कवीनामुशना कविः.
Translation. Of the Vrishnis I am Vasudeva, of the Pandavas I am Dhananjaya, and of the saints I am Vyasa, of the sages I am Usanas the sage. Vasudeva, myself, who am your friend. Vrishnis, the descendants of Yadu. The saints, those who are engrossed in meditation and know all things. Sages, those of extensive knowledge, the omniscient beings.
दण्डोदमयतामस्मि रीतिरस्मि जिगीषताम् मौनं चैवास्मि गुह्यानां ज्ञानं ज्ञानवतामहम्.
Translation. Of punishers I am the scepter, of those who seek to conquer I am the polity, and of things secret I am also silence, the knowledge of knowers am I.
यच्चापि सर्वभूतानां बीजं तदहमर्जुन न तदस्ति विना यत्स्यान्मया भूतं चराचरम्.
Translation. And what is the seed of all being, that also am I, O Arjuna? There is no being, whether moving or unmoving, that can exist without me. To conclude the present section, the Lord summarizes His glory, Vibhuti, as follows: There is no being without me, for anything into which I have not entered would be without self, could not exist, and would be void, sunya. Wherefore, everything is of my nature, I am the essence of everything.
नातोऽस्ति मम दिव्यानां विभूतीनां परन्तप एष तूद्देशतः प्रोक्तो विभूतेर्विस्तरो मया.
Translation. There is no end of my heavenly glories, O harasser of yourself foes, but the details of my glory have been declared only by way of instance. It is indeed not possible for anybody to describe or know the exact extent of the divine glories of the Lord, the Self of all. Divine glory described in brief.
यद्यद्विभूतिमत्सत्त्वं श्रीमदूर्जितमेव वा तत्तदेवावगच्छत्वं मम तेजोंशसम्भवम्.
Translation. Whatever being is glorious, prosperous, or strong, that know you to be a manifestation of a part of my splendor. My, the Ishvara, is.
अथवा बहुनैतेन किं ज्ञातेन तवार्जुन विष्टभ्याहमिदं कृत्स्नम् एकांशेन स्थितो जगत्.
Translation. But, of what avail to you is this vast things being known, O Arjuna? I stand sustaining this whole world by one part, of myself. Of what avail to you can be this knowledge of vast but imperfect details? Listen, I will tell you completely of it. I stand sustaining firmly this whole world by one part, by one limb, by one foot. One part of myself constitutes all beings. So says the chant. All beings form his foot. Tattilya Aranyaka 3-12.
ॐ तत्सदिति श्रीमद्भगवद्गीतासु उपनिषत्सु ब्रह्मविद्यायां योगशास्त्रे श्रीकृष्णार्जुनसंवादे विभूतियोगो नाम 10मोऽध्यायः.
Thank you for watching. Please support us. Please like, share, subscribe.